Okay, we are live as live can get, coast to coast, border to border, all over the damn place. iHeartRadio, the Odyssey app, and of course, JiggyJaguar.com, 50 plus AM/FM stations across the country and around the world. And it is our regular Tuesday excursion into news, politics, entertainment, all the various stuff. And we start out with our good, close, personal, longtime friend, your friend and mine, the man about town, Mr. Frank Vernuccio from USA Gov Policy. Frank, I keep seeing all this stuff all over the damn internet about Trump's hands and Trump's this and that. Then I seen some stuff earlier today, which I don't quite know since it's social media. Who the hell knows if it's actually true? About Trump is gotten all religious all of a sudden. And he is very concerned about his health and all sorts of things. What do you think about all this? Is this just people are praying to God that he won't make it the 4 years, or?
Yeah, you're probably right on that score. The man plays rounds of golf, several rounds of golf every week. I don't think he's in bad health at all, but he is 79 years old. And of course,
Yeah.
his opponents will try to weaken his perception to the American public and to the world public by trying to insinuate that there's some health concerns. Well, if you're 79, you have no health concerns, and you must be some kind of alien. So I'm sure he has some health concerns, but nothing I think that's going to impair his presidency whatsoever. Indeed, for a 79-year-old man, he seems to be in fantastic health.
So Dan, jump in there, my friend.
Yeah, there was a lot of stories, rumors that he disappeared over the weekend and that he actually died. And that
Wow.
yeah, it was true.
Holy smokes. Oh,
did you
so that is probably why I kept seeing all this stuff about JD Vance JD Vance that. I'm like,
right.
okay.
And he was playing golf with his grandson. So but they were sure he was dead. And
Good God.
yeah, I mean there was
They
no
just were
basis.
sure he was dead.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Oh.
I mean, it's clearly a situation where they're desperate, and and they can't stand that he's continuing to be successful, and he's doing it quickly. And I had raised a question on another show a couple of months ago as to whether or not the reason why he's going so fast and trying to get these things done, he wants to get it done as much as possible before the midterm, and he wants to make sure that the country's in good shape by the time that he leaves in three and a half years.
Yeah.
But the Democrats are just beside themselves because, the mayor of Chicago, I don't know whether you heard this, Frank, the mayor of Chicago was telling the press, we don't need any more. We don't need the National Guard. We don't need more police. We're fine. Chicago for 13 consecutive years is the murder capital of the United States. 13 consecutive years. And Frank, I did a research piece for my own information, and I went to the FBI statistics of the cities with the number of serious crimes, actual crimes committed, and then the actual crimes committed as a percentage per 100,000 of the population. So there was 39 cities that fell into those categories. And I will tell you, of the 39 cities, 38 were under Democratic mayors.
Yeah.
The 39th is the best way to describe it is that the two candidates said, we got no party whatsoever. We're running as independents of each other. And they didn't declare Democrat or Republican. And whoever was one was going to be the independent. So, but 39 and Chicago 13 consecutive years in murder capital. Democrats were saying they don't need any help with Chicago because Memphis is much worse than Chicago. And it's again a numbers game that people are playing. And by the way, did you see that it came across my wire just before we got on the air that Donald Trump has decided he's going to send the National Guard to Chicago?
Yes. Yeah, I just saw that on Drudge Report that
Yeah.
they are going to be sending, which
So this rocket scientist who's the mayor of Chicago,
he wants to be president.
who that's the governor also was that too, but the
Yeah.
mayor of Chicago who has a 6%, say it again, 6% approval rating in Chicago, has decided we don't want more police. We want the money to build the true secret of success of solving the crime problem is low income housing. That's what he
Great
wants.
summary. Great summary, Dan. Let me just add some of these statistics to you. For 13 consecutive years, as Dan said, Chicago has had the most murders of any U.S. city. For 7 consecutive years, Chicago has had the highest murder rate among U.S. cities with more than 1 million people, as Dan has said. In 2024, Chicago's murder rate per capita was 3 times higher than Los Angeles and nearly 5 times higher than New York. That's double
Wow.
the murder rate in such peaceful cities as Islamabad and 15 times as in Delhi. Well, out of Chicago's 147,899 reported crimes since January 1st, arrests have been made in only 16.2% of them. More illegal guns are recovered in Chicago than in New York City and Los Angeles combined. The number of reported motor vehicle thefts last year was more than double the number in 2021. So, you're looking at these incredible statistics, and the mayor seems absolutely nonplussed about any rational approach to resolving them. So, of course, at some point, something has to be done, or you're losing an American city.
Right. And one of the interesting questions I heard today that they tried to ask the mayor of Chicago, Mr. Mayor, what is an acceptable murder rate in Chicago?
That's awesome. What is an acceptable murder rate?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
he refused to answer, and the other statistic, which I thought was interesting, was the number one auto theft and hijacking city in the country is Washington, D.C. They have, in absolute numbers, more hijacking and auto theft than any other city in the country. And when I did that on a show this morning, you know what the guy said? That's because all the damn congressmen and senators got all the money and they're buying expensive cars and people are stealing them.
Well, he's not wrong, but
probably not wrong. So it's like you can see the anguish in these people's faces. I mean, when a reporter today asked the mayor of Chicago, there are people, black people in South Chicago on the street corners yelling at the mayor, bring in the National Guard, bring them in, save lives. They had, I think it was, and I had the number, but I can't find my piece of paper. I think it was 57 people shot and like maybe 10 or 12 were killed in Chicago over the Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day weekend.
That's about right. And there's something behind all the statistics we have to remember. These statistics are probably the low end of the scale because in many major cities, for example, in Chicago and in New York before Rudy Giuliani took over as mayor, the crime statistics were substantially fudged in several ways. For example, prosecutors would do things like saying a felony was knocked down in a plea deal to a misdemeanor, so it didn't show up as a major crime.
Right.
So remember, these horrendous statistics are actually at the low end of what it really is.
And that's what's happening in Washington, D.C. They're taking first degree murder and downgrading it to manslaughter. or
Correct.
accidental shooting or whatever. So they're cooking the books. But I know, I know, and I know it's just awful to say what I want to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. The Democrats, I believe, every day that went by, I think it was 13 days without a killing in Washington, D.C. 13 days. And there was some person shot, but I don't think he died. So there was one person shot after 13 days. And it's like the Democrats every day would their sphincter muscle would tighten. Somebody's got to die. Somebody's got to die. Somebody's got to die. Why? Because they wanted the program for Donald Trump to fail, and it didn't fail because even the bad guys were saying, you may not be able to see that person with a rifle in a uniform, whether it's a police or military, but you know that he's there.
Yep.
And you say, wait a minute, do I want to do what I was planning to do here? Because I might not only will I might get shot, I might get arrested. And I blew a host's brain this morning when I told him that in the city of Washington, D.C., if you're under 25 years of age and you commit murder, you're treated as a minor, prosecuted as a minor under 25. And so a lot of these people are getting out because they're under 25. The hijackers are for cars range between 12 and 17 years of age. They're getting in. Judge Janine, who's now the district attorney for Washington, D.C., federal attorney, I should say, she wants to do something about this cashless bail and all this other stuff. But because they've arrested thousands of people and nobody's getting out, so they're staying in jail. They're not getting out in 12 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours. But I really wonder, Frank, what do you think if Donald Trump sends the National Guard in to Chicago? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think the same thing that happened in Washington, D.C. Crime is going to go down dramatically. And I think what's going to be a bigger problem for the Democrats is that the people of Chicago will welcome the National Guard in most cases with open arms. Yes,
Yes.
you'll have your paid demonstrators who will show up and protest about it. Brandon Johnson and J.D. Pritzker will whine and complain. But I think the common folk, the true residents of Chicago, will welcome this, and I think that'll be a massive embarrassment to the Democrats, both in Illinois and throughout the country.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
it,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
Go on, Dan.
No, you go on.
No, I was speaking with Scott Walter, who is the head of the Capital Research Center, and one of the things that he's speculating is that these radical district attorneys are actually part of a plan to make things so bad that you'll have left wingers saying, well, the only way to control this is through draconian measures. You have to let us in, take over things like abolishing the Second Amendment, abolishing citizens' rights, and taking power that way, which is the same way that, for example, in Nazi Germany under the Weimar Republic, the Nazis said the only way to get order is to put us in power. So this is quite sinister in the final analysis.
I agree. At some point in time, Frank, I after Chicago, if it works in Chicago, and I have no reason to understand why it wouldn't work, no matter what the mayor says. I mean, the presidential executive order overturns anything that the state or governor could pass or write, and it'll be challenged in court, and the National Guard will go in and do their work. But I talked to people last week, and and people are saying, "Wow, this is really crazy. We've got soldiers on our streets." Well, Frank, you and I are old enough. Jim's probably not old enough, but you and I were old enough to remember when Eisenhower called out the National Guard to desegregate the public schools, and we had National Guard troops patrolling the streets so that black children could get into the schools, even if George Wallace was trying to block the way. So it's not without precedent in our history to have the National Guard on our streets for lots of different reasons.
That's exactly right. Well said, Dan.
I want to, Jim, I
Yeah,
wanted to, while we got Frank, if you don't mind, I would want to jump to one other issue. Is
go
that all?
ahead, brother. Yeah, go ahead.
Minneapolis, Minneapolis. I again did a lot of research, and what's going on in Minneapolis is that there's a story, Frank, that very few people know about. First of all, the mainstream media got their facts wrong. Number one, this was not a school shooting. This was a shooting in a Catholic church, a parish priest, a parish church next to a Catholic school. So the reporters on MSNBC and CNN and all those who were calling it a school shooting that's not true. It was a Catholic church, an active parish Catholic church. And there were some of the people that were shot were members of the congregation. Two of them were women in their 80s who were shot. So that's a mistake. Number two, what we don't know, and this has all been substantiated. Last year, 430 churches were attacked in the United States. That's more than one every day. 430 churches. Synagogues and mosques were also attacked. So that they're not talking about that story at all either. And the other part of the story that they're not talking about is that in the manifesto of the shooter, he, and notice use the word he, not she, like the reporter who was trying to criticize a congressman from the district who was saying, wait a minute, this guy might have been transgender, but he's still a male. And she said, no, you have to call him a female. Anyway, she wrote in her manifesto that she regretted going through all the transgender protocols because it didn't help her at all. So there's a lot of things that the mainstream media, including Fox, left out, didn't talk about. And Tim Waltz, Tampon Tim, was approached 3 years ago about providing money to provide security for schools and churches of all denominations. He promised $50 million and never got it, never passed it, never got it passed, never did anything. It was lip service. So there's a lot of things that took place there that the whole story wasn't told. And I feel it's important that people need to understand when you've got, and by the way, gun violence against churches are up 84% already in 2025 over 2024. So the idea that that remember sanctuary cities, people used to take sanctuary into churches to be get away from the law or whatever. Churches are no longer safe sanctuary. You can get killed going to church. And
You have to ask the combination of the rampant anti-Semitism and the attacks on Catholic churches is not an unfamiliar thing in history. When socialist totalitarians begin to move on the march, when they gain their gain to power, their march to power, religion is often the very first target, both Judaism and Christianity, because any hold on the conscience of man that is apart from the government, apart from the power, which a socialist government is a totalitarian type concept, is unacceptable to them. And so they accommodate, they encourage, they are implicit in attacks on religion, no matter what that religion is.
now I'm going to change pews again, Jim.
Same
Um,
church, different pew. I love that line. I use it all the time.
yes, I've used that for years. Frank, we have a situation where Tulsi Gabbard last week added to her documents and openly accused the former president of the United States, Clapper, Comey, Brennan, and some other people of basically treason, trying to overthrow the newly elected administration of Donald Trump. And I asked this question to John Gordon today, Jim, and I said, "Look, I got to have this quick." So Barack Obama, let's say he was the ringleader, and Brennan and Comey and Clapper were all involved, but it wasn't them who did all the actions that created all the lawfare and all the things in the Justice Department and the FBI, CIA, and everything else. It was rank and file. It was employees, the deep state, that were the ones who were responsible for executing this potential coup of Donald Trump. And what I don't understand, Frank, is what do these people also have no moral center? Wouldn't somebody say, you can't do that? That's against the Constitution. You can't try and get rid of the government, because I say that what they tried to do with Donald Trump in trying to get him overthrown, but created the coup, was worse than John Kennedy, which I believe the deep state was involved. So how is it that down into the bowels of the government, the administration, the deep state, that these people who committed all of these crimes and did all these things, where was their moral compass, Frank?
Well, let's understand who these people are. Let's go, for example, to John Brennan, maybe one of the worst of the bunch. John Brennan was a communist sympathizer. Now, in my youth, you couldn't get a job as a letter carrier at the post office if you had any ties to the Communist Party. The Obama administration made him head of the CIA. So when you have people of that caliber who have no real affinity towards American freedom, and they are in a position such as head of the CIA, that tells you everything you need to know. We were dealing with a group of people who were ruthless and who had no affinity with the American nation or the American people. And that really answers a lot of the questions. Now, in terms of who's responsible, we did see just recently the Trump DOJ finally settled a case with two whistleblowers in the FBI who were trying to expose the wrongdoing that the FBI was doing under Obama and under Biden. So that's a real step in the right direction. But overall, you're going to have a problem that you have in the prosecution of drug kingpins, where you can get a lot of the drug pushers on the straight, but it's very hard to get a conviction of the guy on top who always keeps his fingers kind of clean of the
Yep.
dirty work.
So what I don't understand, Frank, is probably the most shocking revelation to me over the last 2 weeks is that Bill Barr consulted with the lady in Atlanta in her case to prosecute Donald Trump. What happened there?
Don't have an answer for that. There's a lot more research that has to be done.
I just thought it was insane. Let's see what IQ has to say, Jim.
IQ, are you there, my man?
I'm here, but I have a different point of view. As a racist, I look at it in a different point of view. I have noticed.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's quite the intro. Go ahead, baby. Go ahead.
I have noticed that the worst of all of these Democrats are black women and black men in power. Whether they are mayors, attorney generals, police chiefs, or whatever, they are the worst, black ones. And nobody says anything because you are in America. That will be racism. But as you know, I'm a racist, so it's all right for me to speak. But honestly,
That's racist.
Frank, double check it. I promise you, you'll find out it's true. Most of them are black, male or female or whatever, but they are black.
I've
And
had
some
the
of these,
opportunity. I've had the opportunity to go into black neighborhoods at community board meetings and things of that sort. And I can tell you that the black population wants exactly the same thing as the white population.
Yeah.
They want to be free from crime. They want to have honest public officials. Unfortunately, in many cases, the folks that the left has promoted who happen to be black are the ones who are just like them,
Yep.
radicals, anti-American. So I don't think it's the black population. I don't think it's in general. I just think that the ones who happen to have been promoted by the Democratic Party's hard left happen to be those that agree with them. They're hard left radicals.
Gentlemen, you misunderstood me then. I never said the black people. I said the black leaders who are black are the ones who are corrupt, which is confirmed exactly by what you just said. The ordinary American blacks, they want exactly the same thing like everybody else. They want to be free of death and destruction. They want to be able to live happy. They want to succeed like anybody else.
They want to
But
be
their
free of
leaders are corrupt.
nonsense.
But I have to disagree with my long-term friend, Mr. IQ. IQ,
Shoot.
where I think you're wrong is I just told you the story about 39 deadliest cities in the United States. 38 of them are run by black mayors. It ain't white people that elected them to be in office. It's black people.
It doesn't matter. All I'm considering, like, I don't care how they were elected. The important thing, they are corrupt. All of them are corrupt. They're all black. They were supposed to take care of their people. On the contrary, they rob their people, they cheat their people, and they cheat America.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what ends up happening, which this is just a black, white, Asian, all problem, is people get in there and they go, oh, look at what this guy's able to get away with. Look at what this chick's able to get away with. And, that's one of the things that all these people who have decided that they want to be president now, it's not because they want to be president. It's because they've seen a whole history of people who, whether it's Democrats, Republicans, whoever, who have gotten in there. And then all of a sudden they go, well, if that guy got this, because for instance, Stephen A. Smith from ESPN, he was flirting with wanting to run for president, but it wasn't until Qatar gave Trump a jet, and then all of a sudden Stephen A's like, I'm not running for president now. And I'm like, okay. He saw Trump got a plane, and he's like, I want a plane too.
Well, a couple of things. Trump didn't get the plane. Trump didn't get the plane. The United States of America got the plane.
Yeah.
But more than that,
and that's the thing is
well,
nobody
corruption
ever bothered to listen to that part of it.
Well, corruption has always been, unfortunately, present in politics.
Yeah.
It really changed during the Clinton administration when people saw how rich the Clintons got from corruption. When the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation just made billions from corruption, I think that changed corruption's role in politics from being a factor to being, in many cases, the factor.
Factor. That's right.
Yes.
Well, and also, people complain about the fact that Trump got a jet, but look it up. Clinton got a helicopter, and he got to take that with him when he left. So, but we are running.
And after saying what I said
Yeah.
about the Clintons, I want everyone to know that reports of my suicide tomorrow are totally inappropriate.
There it is. We have got the incredible Frank Vernuccio with us today, USA Gun Policy. Frank, as we wrap up here, my friend, give us a preview of the radio and TV program this weekend and everything you got going online, my friend.
At usagovpolicy.com, we're going to be talking to Judge John Wilson, who's going to fill us in on the story behind the story on some of the recent court decisions and how they're basically a delaying action until the next election when the Democrats hope to get more power. I'm also going to be extend you my conversation with Scott Walter, as I mentioned, the head of the Capitol Research Center, and he'll be talking about the motivations behind these crazy district attorneys who are just letting everyone go free.
It is always fun. You always do these things with a big smile on your face. Vernuccio doesn't take himself too seriously. He is even though I don't know who your tailor is, but they are excellent. Uh, you've got these you got these great suits every week, baby. Frank, thanks for doing this, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you, sir.
Great being with you, Jim. I'll see you next week.
Appreciate it. And
Bye-bye.
so Dan and IQ and myself are going to continue on until our guest pops in here. So one of the things that when we were discussing the crime situation, I remember had to be at least 10 years ago or more when I think it was ironically it was one of those interesting days where Alex Jones talked about something and then Cenk Uygur and the Young Turks talked about it in the evening and they both had the same opinion but they both hate each other. Alex's take on the whole crime thing was that you're going to hear more and more and more and more about crime because the Democrats want to take advantage of all this crime. And the Republicans want to take advantage of the fact that they can then add extra things in and we can do extra stuff here with cops and security and all these things. And then in the evening, Cenk Uygur said the exact same thing. And if you notice, as we've moved on down the road, we get more and more and more people with police. And, I think honestly what will happen with this whole thing with Trump sending the cops to various places, I think he's just he's just trying to taper down the crime. However, I believe that regardless of who gets it next, they may look to maybe establish a national police force. And it's like it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Well, what do you think, Dan?
Well, I think you have to start with the basic fundamental issue is that the police forces, my publicist lives outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. And they recently had some serious riots in downtown Cincinnati. The chief of police was under serious criticism because he didn't do anything about the mob of people in downtown Cincinnati tearing stuff up and hitting people and stealing cars and doing all that crap. And he said, look, my job, I have the responsibility of policing the entire city of Cincinnati.
Yes.
My police force is 25% down. I don't have the resources to take them from someplace else and put them downtown to try and stop a riot.
Yep.
I don't have it. The last number I saw, it's been a long time since I looked at it, but the last time I saw, there were 48,000 open police officer jobs. If we get the radical communist Democrat in New York City and he gets his wish to literally eliminate the police force in New York City, something like 29,000 people, 29,000 police officers. And Frank, when we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, said he's not going to do it all at one time. He's just going to have people take early retirement and not replace them.
Yep.
New York's going to be the wild, wild west, and people are going to be more afraid to go there because there's not going to be any law and order. And the question you're kind of raising when you were talking about the police is grow and grow and grow. Police haven't been growing. The police have been going the other way. And we've got
that too.
We've got leadership in like all the Black Lives Matter people who were protesting in Seattle and Portland and shutting down the city and burning down the police stations and doing all that stuff. And the mayors would not allow the police to respond. So they burned down businesses, they killed people, they injured police officers, and they weren't allowed to respond. And I think even though they're going to have they have better law and order and security and lower crime in Washington, D.C., when the National Guard comes out, and they will, if they don't have the police force to replace them so that they can put more police in the streets, it's going to come back because that threat of the National Guard is there. They'll go to Chicago and they'll make a difference. But believe me, Jim, the cities around the country, especially the blue cities, are having a very, very difficult time, one, keeping police officers, and two, finding replacements.
Yep.
And as long as you don't have an effective and significant police force, crime's going to run rampant.
One question nobody is answering. I've been mentioning it a million times on your show. You have traitors in Congress, blatant anti-American traitors in Congress.
Right.
You've had them for years.
Yes.
Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Linda Sarsour, and CAIR, CAIR, the Council of American Islamic American Islamic Relations. I asked you many times, Dan, why is the GOJ, FBI, and national security people doing anything about it? Why aren't they doing anything about it?
Well,
Why?
first of all,
Yeah.
you had the Obama administration, then you had the Trump administration under fire constantly being
Correct.
attacked by the left. Then Biden came in. So what you basically had is the government was not functioning to do anything about with what you're talking about.
Okay.
So they weren't doing anything. Now we've got a different administration. They're doing something about it, but we've got cities ingrained with, as you pointed out, black leaders. Some are good, some are terribly corrupt, some are really biased against white people. And so until we can turn the rhetoric around, and I really believe this, IQ. I'm not convinced that any police force in the United States today, especially a blue city police force, is going to have much of a chance to recruit people. Did you know, for example, that in New York City, if you want to become a policeman, you're not protected by the police department against liability. You have to buy your own professional liability insurance.
Wow, I did not know about that.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. So
Wow.
if you want to be a New York City policeman, you have to buy your own liability insurance because the government has decided they're not going to insure you against being sued. So you have to have your own liability insurance.
That is amazing.
Why would anybody go and become a police officer under these circumstances? Why?
That's exactly my point. If New York is already down 10,000 officers, if the new guy gets in and starts whittling away, how are you going to maintain law and order in New York City?
Yes, but one thing I keep repeating to you, and you keep escaping. These are Muslims. Now, wait a minute. I don't have to wait for any law. They are Muslims. Their loyalty is not to the United States of America or the American Constitution. Their loyalty is to Allah. They declared it every single time. When Zohran said, he said, I am the first black male Muslim. He didn't say American Muslim. He didn't say Muslim American. He said Muslim. End of conversation. That means he's Sharia compliant. Then he is a traitor. And you keep telling me about this and that. And I forget about, I don't give a damn about Biden. Biden is gone. These people are alive today and cheating. Ilhan Omar made a challenge.
And see, this is exactly, I was over the weekend.
Yeah.
I seen some, I think it was on one of the news channels. where somebody in New York City was like, "Oh, don't elect the the Mamdani guy because well, we wouldn't let all the landlords, it wouldn't be good for the landlords." And then I hear all this other stuff about, well, it wouldn't be good for this, it wouldn't be good for that. And I'm like, why doesn't somebody, although this will never happen because it's just what IQ has said, but why doesn't somebody get on and say exactly what you're saying? Because you don't need
I
to
asked the same
scare
question.
anybody with the,
I've
oh
been
my God, the
asking this.
landlords, the rent's gonna go up,
Yeah.
or this won't be good for the cops. You don't have to do any of that nonsense. Just get on the air and say exactly what you're saying.
But I've been
That'd be the
saying it on your
best
show.
way to sink this guy.
But James, I've been saying it on your show forever.
Oh, for decades. And you've been
Forever.
saying this all
Forever.
over the damn place.
And the truth, it's absolutely true. There is no human being on the planet. When you say that on television or radio or whatever, nobody can contradict me. Why? Because I'm basing it on their own books. I'm not creating, it's not a conspiracy theory. Allah forbids every single Muslim from ever being a loyal citizen among kuffar. It
Yep.
forbids them from integrating, it forbids them from assimilating. They are the eternal and mortal enemies of every human being on the planet who is not a Muslim. It's that simple. I don't give a damn about whether it was Obama or what. Now we have a new government.
Well, that too.
Deal with it immediately. I mean, when the guy is saying he supports Islam, end of conversation. What are we talking about?
So we've
That's
got
why,
Dan Perkins,
that's why I get
IQ
excited.
hours only. Dan,
Yes, sir.
what do you think about this here with IQ?
He's modestly correct. I couldn't resist that. Modestly correct.
I know, and he didn't say anything. He no sold it. Dang it, IQ, you no sold it, baby.
But when I was growing up, America was a much different country than it is today. When I grew up, you never locked the front door.
Yeah.
When I grew and I was in Columbus, Ohio, the 20th largest city in the country. You never locked the front door. You could go outside and play for hours and come in, wash up and have dinner. You walked to school. You didn't have a guard. You had a crossing guard, but you didn't have officers in the school. We've become a much more violent society. And I've looked at it, and I looked at what happened at the church last week, what's happened time and time again. The American people became comfortable that their first responders, the police, would protect them.
Yep.
And they can't. And so it's difficult for the American people to understand that they will be their first responders, not the police, no matter how many police they put on.
Yep.
The country has changed dramatically, and you have to come to the understanding that you have to protect yourself, your family, and your property. And you cannot wait for the police to arrive. When it takes an hour and 40 minutes for the police to respond in New Orleans, Louisiana, or takes 22 minutes in Cincinnati, Ohio, you could be dead before they arrive. And so what's happening is that our society has become more violent. There are essence of our society that thrive on the violence. There are people that have lost respect for human life, and to shoot somebody point blank range on the street as you drive by in your car shows that you have no respect for life and you don't care about those persons. I really believe that this story that we talked about, I think last week, about these people who are the new The new lone wolves are people who hate themselves and hate everybody else and think everybody should be dead. It was clear in the manifesto of the man who was shot the children at the church last week. He did not like himself. He didn't think he should be allowed to live. He didn't like blacks. He didn't like Hispanics. Like Catholics and a whole bunch of other people. So it was all right for him to be able to kill them. Same thing true with the guy who went into New York City at the NFL office and shot and killed 4 or 5 people.
Yep.
He didn't know them from the hole in the wall. He came all the way from Las Vegas to go into New York City on Park Avenue to go to the swanky building and kill people. The guy who shot the executive from the healthcare company, dead point blank range, shot and killed him. How is he received? As a sex symbol.
Yep.
So
Only by the leftists. Again and again, we come to the same conclusion. Only by the leftists. By the way, these trans, the reason they hate themselves is because they were made to hate themselves. They should be in
Yeah.
mental asylums. These people should not be on the road.
Exactly. I have always.
It's a disease. It's a mental problem. It's not a societal problem.
IQ, when I was growing up, we had in Columbus, Ohio, a rather large hospital for the insane and people who were mentally ill. But the Democrats decided, and the doctors decided, it's better off that they leave those institutions and assimilate into society because they'll be better for it and we'll be a better country for it. Well, it didn't work.
It can't work. They should have known it can't work.
Right. So you have these encampments that have grown up for years all over the country with thousands and thousands of people, many of them who are clinically depressed, have psychological problems.
Yep.
They're not getting any help. And they're living in squalor. They have a terrible life. They're doing the best they can. But we took that away, says, because we're giving them too many drugs and everything, and it's reducing the quality of life. Their intentions caveat may, have been good, but they didn't provide services that were turned to the needs of those people who were mentally depressed and psychologically impaired, like the shooter last week in Minneapolis.
Yeah. Now that we know exactly what the problem is, and we should know, because he's not the only one, 4 people who committed crimes against children were like him, trans people. And what do they choose? They choose places with no military or police officers taking care of them because they're cowards.
Yep.
Yeah, we saw last week where the mayor of Minneapolis, who was trying to be compassionate,
Yeah.
spent
should
more
be
time
shot.
talking about protecting the trans community in Minneapolis.
He should be shot dead. You know, this is what puzzles me. Invariably, those bastards commit crime against innocent people. They don't kill the people who caused the problem that they already have.
Yeah, he killed himself, which is pretty typical. Is that these?
Yeah, but after he murdered people, he killed himself. Had he killed himself before he murdered people, fine. But he didn't. He murdered people and then he killed himself.
It's amazing to see how deprived and how much serious problems we have in our country. And I believe Mr. Trump is trying to do his best to make America safer and to deal with crime, because I think crime will be the major issue in the midterm elections.
It has to
Because
be.
I don't believe the economy will be an issue. I don't believe unemployment will be an issue. I don't believe then inflation will be an issue, because we're going to have more income, we're going to have more people working, we're going to have factories opening up. We're going to see tremendous success, but we're going to do it in a crime-ridden environment, and we've got
yeah.
got to do something about the crime. And more and more people, are really interested and becoming more, as I said, more and more scared, because the people that they depended upon when they were growing up and when they were maturing aren't there, and they don't know how to protect themselves and protect their family or their property.
Well,
But
there is a solution, with all due respect. That's why more people are buying guns. More people than ever, even women, even black people are buying guns now. A2 is the #1 defense system.
when that guy was shooting at the Catholic Church, he had a shotgun, a rifle, and a handgun. I don't know which he used more. Don't know
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
We'll
Look,
find out.
look.
But I know that the vast majority of deaths are not done with long rifles or shotguns. They're handguns. And the idea that I want to take away an AK-47 or an AR-15 because it's an assault rifle, I think that we see what happened in New York City when, in essence, in New York City, the Second Amendment is gone. There is no Second Amendment to own a gun in New York City. It is incredibly difficult, if not impossible. It takes years to get a permit to buy a gun, because the politicians have decided that New York should be a gun-free zone. But the problem with this, it's the common situation, Jim. The left wants to take away the guns from the people who are responsible. They have no suggestion about what to do with the people who are irresponsible, who are buying guns illegally off the black market or having them imported from Central and South America. There's nothing in there to do that, because the bad guys don't register their guns and they don't get permits. They get them, go, and they hold up people and they kill people. And so eliminating the Second Amendment takes the guns out of the people who are trying to act responsible on a responsible way to take care of themselves, protect themselves, their family, and their property. And the Democrats want to take that away. They want to take away your Second Amendment rights. And they've pretty much succeeded in New York City, but they want to do it. It's like every time there's a shooting, the first thing we come out, we got to eliminate. We got to eliminate. And the other one that's almost right up there with it on a parallel, we need better background checks. Well, if you got, we know that the person who shot those people in Minneapolis had some mental problems by reading his manifesto. But there wasn't a way in which any government authority had the ability to find out if this particular person had severe mental problems, and to cross-reference him the fact that he bought 3 guns legally. And so you remember the red flag laws, Jim, that they were trying to pass?
Yes.
If somebody said, Jim is a weirdo, he shouldn't have a gun.
Well,
Shouldn't have a gun, so they would throw in the red flag like the referee, and they would call the police or whoever and say, Jim shouldn't have a gun. He's not very stable. And they would take that person's word and go to the house and visit with him. And first thing they did was take the gun away, because they didn't want him to have the gun, because they didn't know what Jim was going to do.
Yep.
But the point is that, do we want that to be the standard, that we can now have people telling other people, Jim's not right in the head?
Well, The radio industry has been saying that for decades about me. One of the things that I always look at with this stuff, and you brought this up, Dan, excellently, and that is there's always a shooting, and then they immediately go, we got to get the guns.
True.
And the thing that I've always wondered is that never works. So why don't they come up with a better tactic? Because there's got to be a better tactic here. And also, the thing that always gets me is that they never, the right seems to do this a lot, which is nice, but you know, they're only going to get so far. But immediately, what always ends up happening is people are like, it's not the guns, it's all the re-up inhibitors and all the pills and all the pharmaceuticals. But of course, that never goes too far because then that impugns the pharmaceutical industry, and the pharmaceutical industry is bought off both sides of the coin. But there's got to, you know, the thing that I've always wondered is there's got to be a better way if the goal is to take the guns away, and you've gotten various people hopped up on stuff and you've sent them into a church or you sent them into a school or whatever, and it never works. Why not go do something else? But at the same time, I remember when the Trump administration started cutting the air traffic controller people, and so immediately a whole bunch of planes fell out of the sky, and shocking how that happens. And then that didn't really cause any blowback, so they stopped for a little bit. And then everything was normal. Planes ran, not a big deal. And then he did something else, and it was air traffic control related. And then all of a sudden, all these planes fell out of the sky. And then nothing ever happened to him. So they stopped doing that. I just always find it so strange that if this stuff isn't working, come up with a better tactic.
Well, you know, to use your example, Sean Duffy, the director of transportation, when they started having the planes and they found out that there were air traffic controllers and pilots who were being hired under DEI, which was putting people at risk, they stopped that. And they wanted qualified people. Now they're talking about extending the retirement age from 65 to 67 so that they can buy a little extra time so that the senior pilots can help educate and train the younger pilots. However, what happened was that you had a situation where the administration, the Biden administration, was more interested in their DEI than the safety of the American people.
Yeah.
They wanted to get people in positions of responsibility and authority to be able to do something with DEI. Therefore, they could change America. And they changed it all right, but the people didn't like it, and they turned on them. And so what I'm saying is this: you're saying there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not trying to be holier than thou, but the first thing you got to do is you got to go back and start teaching the Ten Commandments.
Well, that too.
You got to teach people, start with young people in school and teach them the moral law and how you're supposed to act towards yourself, to your parents, to family members, and to friends, how you treat people. And if you don't teach that moral suasion, that moral foundation, it's no wonder you have people that are willing to kill somebody because they have no clue what else to do. When you think about what could they do as it relates to taking away guns, I remember many decades ago when I was first started working in radio in Columbus, Ohio, we had a shooting, and it was on the east side where most of the black people live, and for some reason I don't know why it touched me. Anyway, I decided that we would have on a Sunday. We told the congregation in our church like a couple of weeks before, bring your guns to church if you want to get rid of them. We have a foundry that will melt them down into crosses. And we
That's awesome.
got the Columbus Police Department to join us, and they collected the guns. They checked them. Many of them were loaded. Some of them were corroded shut. But we got several hundred guns, and they took out the bullets, and then we took them to a foundry, and the foundry gave us molded the crosses, and we sent one with our bishop to Rome to give to the Pope. And what was amazing was that there were people in our congregation who were outraged that we're asking people to voluntarily get rid of their guns because they were in their house. They weren't going to use them. They were a threat, but the parishioners in the parish were angry. Some of them were angry with us of getting the guns turned in. And so we know we probably saved some lives. We made some houses safer than they would have been had the guns stayed there. So,
Yeah.
and it made Time Magazine, it made a story in Time Magazine. But the point is, we have to try things, but before we try them, like getting rid of the police may not be a good idea. And what are the ramifications? The Democrats don't think about longer term. What are the ramifications of the actions they take today? Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded of Lyndon Johnson when he passed the vote, got the Civil Rights Act passed because the Republicans voted for it. John Tower, the senator from Texas, came in to Lyndon Johnson and said, you can't pass this bill because you're only talking about what it's going to cost for 1 year. You should be talking about what it should cost for 10 years. He said, we pass the bill for 1 year, we'll get all the black people in the country to vote for us forever. And so in some respects, we are gullible as a nation, of individuals as a nation, and we've stifled the creativity to come up with possible solutions that you're looking for. We need to bring that creativity back to work.
So IQ, as we wrap up here, what give me your thoughts on what Dan has said, and then
My
we
thoughts are
will.
always simple. After 1 hour on this show, the bottom line will be always that the American people should elect intelligently. If they don't elect intelligently, they are going to die unintelligently. That's simple. It's not complicated. You have in front of you two choices, Trump and Democrats. Trump is a patriot who wants the best for America. The Democrats hate America, self-loathe themselves, and they don't want America to succeed. It's that simple. It's not complicated. Now, we'll wait till 2026 to find out.
Right. Very true.
Well, as we wrap up here, let's start with actually let's start with Dan this time. Dan, bring us up to speed on all your various projects and everything.
I'm working on this memoir of this Irishman, and I try to meet with him every 2 weeks as we're writing the book. And I know he told me, but I didn't remember, and I'm sorry about that. This man is 86 years old,
It's amazing.
and he's still dealing with depression. Still dealing with it from his younger life, and how it adversely affected him. He sees a psychiatrist every 2 weeks, and he's still at 86 dealing with it. He's much better than he ever was, but He's gone through it, and so I can imagine these people that are having psychological problems, emotional problems, anxiety, frustration, whatever. I beginning as we're getting deeper and deeper into the story, I'm beginning to understand. Let me just tell you one real quick. I haven't written it yet. I have the story. He married the love of his life. They were lived. They were married for 40 some years before she passed away. They had 4 children. And the day his first son was being baptized, he couldn't hold him in the church.
Wow.
He didn't feel like things were right, and he was afraid he was going to do something to the child.
Mm.
How does a father not want to hold his child? And so it's been a tremendous experience. We're continuing to work on it. Got a couple other things that we're working on to help deal with the violence issue soon, hopefully. And I'm hopeful that the book, The Three Little Pigs, on Joe's memoirs, hopefully we can try and finish it maybe by the end of the year, but we've got 60 years of life to cover now. And I don't know whether we'll get it done by the end of this year, but as he reminds me every time I see him, I'm not getting any younger. I said, neither am I. We're both on a journey to get this,
Neither am I. That's awesome.
get this book done. The rest of the books are available at Amazon.com. And as always, it's a pleasure to be with you on IQ. I always enjoy our conversations.
Same here.
So
Have a lovely
IQ,
week. Yeah.
your before we let you go, your latest article is up there on Malcolm Out Loud on America Out Loud. Tell us a little bit about this article, my man.
I sent him 3 articles. So which one are you talking about? The one about Pandora's box?
Yes, there you go. Let's
Well,
talk about that.
it's simple. Every time the Democrats try to Trump, they get really screwed by Trump and by conditions. Every single time they open Pandora's box to destroy him, Pandora's box destroy them. And it's a very long article, by the way. It's about 1,300 words. But the bottom line is simple. Leave Trump alone. You are not going to win. The way you're going, there is no way on earth you're going to win. He is a patriot. Americans understand that. You don't want him to win. Americans also understand that. You're not going to win. But
And where can we see the article, IQ?
It's on America Out Loud. If you Google it.
AmericaOutloud.com?
Yeah.
Yep.
I can email it to you.
No, I just want the audience to hear where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll email it to you now.
Well, IQ, thanks for doing this.
Thank
I'll
you.
see
Thank
you
you
on
very much. Take care.
Thursday. And Dan, I will see you next week, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate
Take
it.
care.